Hello everyone, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nirmala Ayuningtyas and I'm from Class D English Education 2022. In this video, I will explain you about one of the popular book in the world, that is Romeo and Juliet. Romeo and Juliet is the book written by William Shakespeare and one of the English literature. So, in order you can understand, you can get many knowledge from this video. I hope you can watch this video until the end. William Shakespeare was an English poet, playwright, and actor born in Stratford-upon-Avon in 1564. He is widely considered to be the greatest writer in the English language and the world's prominent dramatist. Shakespeare's life revolved around two locations, Stratford and London. He grew up, had a family, and bought property in Stratford, but he worked in London, the center of English theatre. As an actor, a playwright, and a partner in a leading acting company, he became both prosperous and well known. Shakespeare wrote 38 plays and 154 sonnets. Some of his most famous works include Hamlet, Romeo and Juliet, Macbeth, and Othello. Shakespeare's legacy is as rich and diverse of his works. His plays have spawned countless adaptations across multiple genres and cultures. His writings have been compiled in various iterations of the complete works of William Shakespeare, which include all of his plays, sonnets, and other poems.
The Tragedy of King Richard III by William Shakespeare.
Are you familiar with the plays of William Shakespeare?
So tell my lady William Shakespeare waits for her in the garden.
A comedy by William Shakespeare.
His poet, playwright, and actor born in 1564 in Stratford-upon-Avon. His birthday is most commonly celebrated on April 23, which is also believed to be the date he died in 1616. Um, Shakespeare was the oldest surviving child on John and Mary Shakespeare, and he had two older sisters who did not live beyond infancy. Records survive relating to William Shakespeare's family that offer an understanding of the context of Shakespeare's early life and the lives of the family members. When he was 18, Shakespeare married Anna Hathaway, who was 26 at the time. Together, they had three children. Their first child, Susanna, was baptized in May 1583, and their twins, Hamnet and Judith, were baptized in February 1585. Hamnet died in the age of 11. There are 7 years of Shakespeare's life where no records exist after the birth of his twins in 1585 until 1592. Shakespeare's last year, and there is wide speculation about what he was doing during this period. Shakespeare's life revolved around two locations, like before, like that is Stratford and London. He grew up and had a family and bought property in Stratford, but he worked in London as an playwright, and partner in leading acting company. He became both prosperous, and well known. Um, But even though we don't know everything about his life due to his lost or not existent record of that time period, we know that he left behind the literary legacy of at least 38 plays, 154 sonnets, and two narrative poems that range that capture the range of the human emotion and experience. Other literary works of William Shakespeare. William Shakespeare is one of the most famous playwrights in the history, and he wrote many plays and sonnets during his lifetime. Some of his famous well-known works include Romeo and Juliet, Hamlet, Macbeth, Othello, King Lear, Julius Caesar, The Tempest, Twelfth Night, Midsummer, Night's Dream, Much Ado About Nothing. But in addition to these plays, Shakespeare also wrote many sonnets, which are short poems consisting of 14 lines. He is believed to be have written 154 sonnets in total. Romeo and his friends learn of a party being held by the Capulets and decide to go to Hades' Masquers. At the party, Romeo meets Juliet and they instantly fall in love. After leaving party, Romeo eludes his friends, returns to meet Juliet, and they exchange vows of love. Romeo tells Friar Lawrence what has happened and he consents to marry them. Juliet's father arranges for her to marry Paris, but she refuses. Juliet goes to Friar Lawrence for help, and he gives her a potion that will make her appear dead for 42 hours. Romeo hears only that Juliet is dead and decides to kill himself rather than live without her. Juliet wakes up to find Romeo dead beside her and kills herself with her dagger. The play explores themes of love, revenge, fate, consorship, marriage, value, doubleness, and the meaning of gender. The similarities and the differences between William Shakespeare and his literary works. William Shakespeare is one of the most famous writers in English literature, and his works has been studied and celebrated uh, for centuries. Here are some similarities and differences between William Shakespeare and his literary works. There are four similarities of William Shakespeare in his literary works. The first, Shakespeare was a playwright, and many of his works are plays that were performed and stage. Two, his plays often explore universal themes such as love, jealous, power, and betrayal. Third, Shakespeare's works are known for their poetic language and use of metaphor. Four, Mary plays complex characters with conflicting motivations and desires. While four differences between William Shakespeare and his literary works, there are Shakespeare's personal life is largely mystery, and we know very little about his childhood or education. While many of his plays are tragedies, Shakespeare also wrote comedies. And history, some of his plays are based on historical events or other literary works, while others are entirely original. Creating Shakespeare's works have been the subject of much debate and speculations over the years, with some scholars questioning whether he actually wrote all of the plays attributed to him. Okay, guys, we move to analysis characters. As we know together that there are many characters in Romeo and Juliet books, or film. So in this part, I will tell you what the analysis characters of all of the players in Romeo and Juliet. The characters in Romeo and Juliet are complex and multidimensional. Here is a list of the main character and brief analysis of each. The first is Romeo. A young man of about 16, Romeo is handsome, intelligent, and sensitive, though impulsive and immature. His idealism and passion make him an extremely likable character during the course of the play. Romeo nurtures from adolescence to adulthood as a result of his love for Juliet and his unfortunate involvement in the fan marketing and development from a comic character to a tragic figure. To Juliet, the daughter of Capulet and Lady Capulet. Juliet is a beautiful 13 years old girl who begins the play as a child who thought little love and marriage. However, she grows up quickly upon falling in love with Romeo, the son of her family's great enemy. Juliet is a fiercely spirit, strong, a winner, a characters. The nurse, Juliet's nurse, is the main source of comic relief throughout the play. Forgetful, long-winded body and seemingly immune to embarrassment, the nurse is happy to share cring-worthy stories from her own past and Juliet's. Uh, Julius Mercutio, Romeo's best friend and kinsman to Prince Exclus, Mercutio is one of the play's most dynamic and complex characters. Wild, frantic, easygoing, and fun-loving. Mercutio's manic energy, rambling stories, and razor-sharp wit masked his despair over Romeo's embodiment of him after meeting Juliet. Next, Friar Lawrence. A Franciscan friar charged by Friar John with tracking the news of Juliet's false death to Romeo in Mantua. Friar Lawrence is a kind friend to both Romeo and Juliet, who helps them marry in secret and craft a plan to reunite them when things go awry. And the next table, a couplet table, is Juliet's cousin on her mother's side. Vain fashionable, supremely aware of courtesy and the lack of it, he becomes aggressive, violent, and quick to draw his sword when he feels his pride has been injured. Benvolio, Montague's nephew and Romeo's cousin. Benvolio is Lord Montague's nephew and friend to Romeo and Mercutio. He is a peacemaker who attempts to keep peace between the Montagues and Capulets. And next to Lord Capulet, head of the Capulet house and Juliet's father, he is initially portrayed as a reasonable man but becomes increasingly violent as the play progresses. And progresses Paris. Next to Paris, a handsome count who is a kinsman of Prince Escalus. Paris wants to marry Juliet, but she does not reciprocate his feelings. And Montague, Romeo's father, and the head of the Montague family. The last is Prince Escalus, the prince of Verona, who is concerned about maintaining public peace at all costs. After the analysis of the characters of the players of Romeo and Juliet, so this part we will explain you about the analysis of story, what happened on the story in Romeo and Juliet. Romeo and Juliet began the play trapped by their social rules, but they break free from these rules. They pursue their love for each other. The play explores themes of love, sex, and marriage that dominate the remainder of the play. Romeo and Juliet is often read as both a tragedy and a great celebration of romantic love, but it clearly throws out some difficult questions about the nature of love. Play is notable for its heady blend of poetic forms. Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet is a crucial play on the evolution of his tragic vision. In his integration of poetry and drama, and in his initial exploration of the connection between love and tragedy that he would continue in other plays. Okay, guys, finally we arrived in the last part in this story, in this video. We have to know the characters, the story of Romeo and Juliet. Okay, now we have to know what the moral message of the story of Romeo and Juliet. So, check it out. The message of Romeo and Juliet is complex and multifaceted. The play portrays the cause and participation of being in love, combining images of love, violence, death, religion, and the family in an impressionistic rush leading to the play's tragic conclusion. Love emerges as an immoral thing, leading as much to destruction as the happiness. However, in its extreme passion, the love that Romeo and Juliet experience also appears so exquisitely beautiful that few would want or be able to resist its power. The story is a product of its time and contemporary views, but it still has some lessons for the modern audience. One of the central themes of the play is the conflict between individual desires and social institutions. Another theme is the abiding quality of romantic love, which ultimately wins over every form of social constraint. Shakespeare's message is that nothing is purely good or evil. Everything contains elements of both. Okay, thank you very much for watching my video. I hope this video can help you to understand more about Romeo and Juliet. So, I think enough from me. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. See you.